Let's start. As John mentioned, this was originally developed to help inexperienced personal computer users. Last year, I noticed in talking with new members of our club and also attending computer training programs at our local library that there are a lot of people, mostly seniors, but a lot of people out there that even at this late date in 2017, 2018, are still very much at sea when it comes to personal computers. However, we have some folks who've joined our club. There were people at those training sessions who were trying to learn, and I wondered if we could help them move down that path. So I put together a program that we gave in July of last year to our club, and I was pleasantly surprised to notice that some of our more experienced members also found this program helpful. And when I thought about it a little bit, I could see why, because the whole idea behind it is to present a plan, an approach that you can use to move from where you are today in computing to where you want to go. And if you think about it, that really applies to all of us. As you can see, I'm going to focus on Windows, although I'm not going to get all that specific about it, but I think this approach would be useful for any computing device. Let me qualify my use of the word expert. It's a relative term that I'm using because unless we're really into a subject, it's a hobby with a passion with us, most of us learn enough about a subject, whatever it is, to complete the task at hand. We do that two ways: by what we internalize, internal knowledge, and by learning where to turn, who to turn to find some help, find some additional information that you don't personally know. So to become your own computer expert, excuse me, you do not need to know everything there is to know about computers. You just need to know enough about what it is you want to do with computers. I couldn't help but think of an analogy as I was putting this together. Most of us, once we've learned how to drive a car, when we go to buy a new car at the dealer, we sit down with them and we say, okay, let's see, where's the ignition, where's okay, here's the turn signals, yep, how do you adjust the seat, okay, the mirrors, and you kind of go through a quick position where everything is. You say thank you very much, turn the ignition key, drive the car off the lot, and when you trade it in at the end of the 6 or 8 years you've had it, the owner's manual is still sitting in its original plastic case in the glove compartment. So you have not internalized everything there is to know about that car because you didn't need to. But if you ran into a question, ran into a problem, you knew where to look. Check out your glove compartment. I'm going to use an approach that I learned at Xerox that in our annual planning reviews when we set objectives for various departments and so forth. It starts out with the idea of visioning. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be at the end of the year? What do you want to accomplish during the year? Basically setting up a yardstick, if you will. Then you step back and you say, well, where am I right now? What's our real world look like right now? And what gaps are there between where we want to be and where we are? You'd identify those gaps, you'd work through them, and you'd use that as a basis to create a roadmap, a plan for what you were going to do for the year. I think that approach can apply to virtually anybody. It doesn't have to be just a business approach. It can apply to us all. We all do planning, whether it's planning to buy a new house, planning to retire, planning to move somewhere, by sitting down saying, what do we want this to do, accomplish, how do we want it to end? We have a guide, a roadmap, a place to where we want to head. So we'll offer some, once we go through the planning exercise, we'll offer some suggestions about how to get the knowledge you need, where to turn to get some help as you progress. process then that you could follow for this and for anything else of a similar nature is start out by understanding your current level of competence. Go through this exercise just described to identify knowledge gaps, develop a plan to close those gaps, find some supportive resources to help you, work your plan, evaluate your progress, and recognize that circumstances will change, do change as time goes by. Adjust your plan as needed, and you have some success. If you're wondering what that buzzing sound in the background is, there's a gentleman with a snowblower outside the window. I could plan on everything except that. And there's your plan. Levels of competence. You've probably seen this before. There are 4 levels of competence. You start out being unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know enough to ask questions. You're not even sure what this whole subject's all about and where to get hold of it and how to start and what to do with it. But if you persevere, if you talk to people, if you do some research and so on, eventually you become consciously incompetent. You know what you don't know. You have an idea of what it is you have to learn. You can ask some reasonable questions and continue to progress to becoming consciously competent, where you're able to complete your desired task with a little attention and thought and some references. And if you stick with it long enough, or you do it frequently enough, you become unconsciously competent. For most of us, being consciously competent in something is probably just fine. And that's what we're going to focus on here. So let's start off assessing where you are today. Here are some questions to help you and people in your clubs to sort through where they stand today. What hardware and software do you have? What do you know about them? What can you do with them? Are you able to accomplish your current goals, computing goals? If you run into a problem, can you solve it on your own? You understand security and how to avoid security risks. So let's look at them in more detail. Let's start with hardware. And part of the reason I'm listing all these questions, you may say, well, gee, these are pretty obvious. And if you use computers a while, you would think of these all by yourself. I did this in part for folks who are unconsciously incompetent, who don't know the questions to ask. By looking at these questions, the intent is, number one, if you know the answer to the question, that's fine. But if you don't know the answer to the question or don't even understand why the question is being asked, then this is an aid to you in identifying what it is you're going to have to learn to get up the learning curve. You can read through those for yourself, but as I said, this should trigger a thought, well, why do I need to know these things? Why do I need to have these things? Here's some things for software. Take an inventory of your software. If you don't know what you have, you can go into your control panel, look at the list of installed programs. If you're running Windows 8 or above, you can look at the apps on your start screen. Do you know what the software does? Perhaps you've bought a new computer, it's come loaded with some software. You may have inherited a computer from a spouse who unfortunately has passed away, and now the baton has been passed to you. Someone may have given you, maybe a family member or friend may have given you a computer that came with software on it. What's on there? Why is it on there? Do you need it? Should any be removed or replaced? Is it an obsolete version? Should you put a newer version on? Are some of these programs on a subscription? If so, what is the expiration date and what's the renewal process? Now, if you set that up, you would know the answer to the question. But if, as I said, you inherited the computer, or you were given the computer, that wouldn't be true. How do you keep your software up to date for performance reasons? Do you need to add new software? Do you have a new interest? Do you want to take on something new? Do you need to add some new software? How about extensions on your browsers? Do you have extensions on your browsers? Are they enabled or disabled? Do you know what they do? Do you need to add or delete any? And here again, if you are not sure what extensions on your browser are, well, this gives you an opportunity to do some research. Security. Is all your software up to date? Is a process in place to back up all your personal files? Do you have robust security software installed? How about safe computing practices? Do you have a browser extension or security software that will screen websites for you and give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you're going to a safe or unsafe website? Have you created a standard account that you use when using web surfing to help minimize the options for bad guys to install malware on your computer? Are there any other loose ends? So now you've gone through this, you've got a good idea of where you are today in terms of knowledge, in terms of hardware, and you've also given some thought, hopefully, to, based on this series of questions, based on your answers, where is it that you'd like to be in terms of knowledge, in terms of hardware, in terms of software? So, from this, you should have identified a list of potential to-dos, of gaps that you want to close to address your current situation. Now let's step back for a minute and ask if there's any new or additional things you'd like to do with your computer that you're not current, that wasn't built into your original vision. Do you want to do social media, history, genealogy, et cetera, any of those? So add those to your to-do list too. Said that within the next year or so, not only do I want to accomplish these tasks with my computer, but I also want to move into this new area as well. So now you can take your to-do list, make sure each entry is clear and specific. Write it down. If you're familiar with computers and you have Word or Excel, you can use those to put them on. If not, use a pencil and paper until you're able to do it on your computer. But build a written, documented to-do list for computers that you can use to help plan your time and check things off. What's the relative importance of each item on your list? And I would add to that, are there any prerequisites? In other words, do you have to complete task A before you can complete task B? And if so, factor that into your planning. From that, you develop a game plan, and off you go. And so in the following slides, we will suggest ways in which you can get the information you'll need and how you can enlist support as you move. And a final thought, accept that you will be shooting at a moving target. I have some books that I bought 40 years ago when I had my first house on how to paint, how to do minor plumbing repairs, electrical repairs, etc. I still have those books. Why? Because they're still relevant. Much of what's in there is still true today. That's not true with computers. Things are changing, as you know, at a rapid rate. Technology's changing, equipment's changing, etc. And so new opportunities are arriving, new risks are arriving. Accept that you'll be shooting at a moving target as you do your planning process, and you'll need to update your plan as you go along. Okay, let's start with computer reference books. I recommend that you start off with a general computing reference book. Not necessarily a specific one about here's one on Windows 10 or here's one on Microsoft Word or here's one on Quicken, but that you start out with general computing books, and I'm going to show you 3 examples on the next slide. You can obviously buy more specific guides as well. I encourage you to check out the selection online booksellers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Go to your local library. My library, and I suspect many libraries these days, has a dedicated tech section. You can browse the titles there. You can see, look for general computing books, and you can see a whole range of specific computing books. And try them out a little bit if you can from your library before you run out and buy one or more or a bunch of books. Certainly check them out. Check out the reviews online, the descriptions online, and so on. Be aware that while these will be handy to have on your bookshelf and handy to read to get you up to speed on some things, that things do change once books have been published. So every once in a while you may run into something where you do what it says in the book or try something that they suggest and it doesn't work the way they said it should. Well, chances are there's been an update to the software. Something's changed since we started. Uh, as a result, some of these books may offer online updates and or cheat sheets that you can download from the publisher. So look for that as a possible alternative. Questions that you come up with as you go through these books, add them to your list and investigate them as you continue moving down the road. So here are 3 books that I would recommend, 2 of which I own. The first one is This Thing On by Abby Stokes. Abby was a presenter in our first track today, or track number 1 today. It's a fun book, and if you've not seen it, let me read the subtitle if you can't see it on your screen. A friendly guide to everything digital for newbies, technophobes, and the kicking and screaming. And as you can gather from that subtitle, Abby's got a good sense of humor. She keeps the book light. One of the things I like about this book is it does not just stick with Windows. It covers Apple as well. It covers Android as well. It covers computers. It covers tablets. It covers smartphones. It gives a person new to computing, and for that matter, all of us, a broad brush general view of that whole subject of computing. As an added plus, down here at the bottom, you can see free video tutorials and resources at askabbystokes.com. And that's true. If you go to her website, she has additional videos there and some documented processes and procedures that you can use to supplement the book. So you get 470 pages of general information. It's fun reading and certainly helpful for anybody who's new in your club or who's joining your club or thinking of joining your club. Heartily recommend this book. This book by Michael Miller is the 8th edition, so Michael's been at this for a while. It's a Windows-based book for Windows computers, but it covers a lot of stuff. It's about computers. Also, I consider very worthwhile, and these are my 2 background books. Here's one I got from our local library, Computers for Seniors for Dummies. It's one of the Dummies series books. Nancy Muir has written a large number of computer books. It's a large type book, so that may be attractive for some of your members or for you. And it also covers, it's a Windows-based book. It's also based on Windows 10. It is somewhat duplicative of Michael's book, but I encourage you to check out and consider these. Where else can you turn? Well, computer newsletters and e-magazines. Newsletters include Kim Commando, who also offers a radio show, has a website, has information on her website, and How to Geek, which also has a website, obviously, but less on the website. It's kimcommando.com, howtogeek.com. These come, they're free. They come, in the case of Kim Commando, probably 5, 6 a week, maybe 7. How to Geek, probably 3 or 4. Each newsletter contains probably 5, 6, 7 articles. You can scan through them, pick out the ones you want, and save them, read them. They're very informative. I should make a comment about newsletters. If you were to search for tech newsletters or computer newsletters online, you would get an awful lot of newsletters designed for IT professionals. So you have to kind of sort through these, and that's why I suggested these 2, because these are oriented much more toward the personal computer user. E-magazines, and I'll show an example from that on the next page. E-magazines, PC World and PC Magazine have been around for a long time as print magazines. They made the decision a few years back to go to online magazines, probably because of the cost of printing and distributing the print magazines. But they're still in business and they're still chugging along, and they are, let's say, a higher level whereas Kim Commando and How to Geek focus on specific computer-related issues and software issues and security issues. PC World and PC Magazine are a little bit higher level. They do product reviews. They talk about trends in computing. They have some more general news about new operating systems, new software that's coming out. They're a supplement, not a replacement for the newsletters. You may be able to get them free through your library, RB Digital portal, otherwise by subscription at zinio.com. Tech websites also are another source. As you cruise the internet, you run across those. You'll see links to them from general news items sometimes or from these newsletters. Here's the article I mentioned from How to Geek. This is not the newsletter itself. It's one article that was in the How to Geek newsletter about what's coming in Windows 10 update. This Microsoft is updating Windows 10 twice a year, major updates twice a year, spring and fall. This is the spring update for 2018. And they describe what they expect to see in this update when it comes. Interesting article, but it's typical of the kinds of articles you'll find. Where else can you turn? Well, participate in training sessions and programs. Manufacturer tutorials, and I'll give you an example. A number of manufacturers of software and to some extent hardware offer tutorials either on their own website or sometimes as part of the software itself. I recommend these. They're done by the manufacturers. They know the material better than anybody else does. They have a vested interest in the customers being comfortable with it, being able to use it. So I encourage that as a source of information. My library holds a number of tech-related presentations each year. Things like how to use Microsoft Word, use Microsoft Excel, how to, what's new in Windows 10, how to manage your passwords, security issues, a whole range of computer-related subjects, and I would encourage you to take advantages of those if they're in your area, and if they're not, you probably ought to talk to your library about doing them. Local adult education programs of a similar nature that might be offered by a community group, community center, senior center, perhaps at a high school or through a local community college. Lynda.com is a subscription service. They have something like 6,000 online courses on a variety of subjects, including a number of computer-related topics. You can subscribe to them from home and have access to all of their courses as part of that subscription. It's a monthly subscription charge. However, some libraries offer this as a free benefit to their customers, mine being one of them. So I can access lynda.com through my library and access those courses for free. So that's worth checking out in your neighborhood. Another place is udemy.com. They also offer online courses. These are courses that have been developed by freelancers. They work out an arrangement with udemy.com to display them on their website, and you can sign up by the course. So you might go to their website, do a search for, let's say, Microsoft Excel, and up would come 4 or 5 different courses from 4 or 5 different presenters or preparers, along with ratings, star ratings and reviews, and you can take your pick and look at the price for each one, select the one you want, sign up for it, and it's yours for life. GCFlearnfree.org is a similar type website, similar to udemy.com, except that their courses are free, and I'll show you an example of that. And then, of course, computer club presentations. If you're a member, no problem, just show up and enjoy the presentation. But if you are sharing this presentation or along with folks who are considering joining your club, it's just one more reason to come aboard. Here's an example of tutorials. This is, I was looking for information about one of the programs in Microsoft Office. So Microsoft, as I'm sure most of you know, has their own standalone website for Office. It's www.office.com. So you go to Office and you click on Support, and it takes you to their support page, which offers installation support, account support, training, admin. You click on Training, and you get to the Office Training Center, where you can learn the basics or how to do it on a collaborative basis, be more productive at work, and so on. But since I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation, how about if I learn by app? And so here's PowerPoint training. Here are getting started. Here's a roadmap of, that you can print, downloadable PDF to give you an idea of how these courses link together. Here's 4 lessons on creating presentations, 9 lessons for add format text, design, present slideshows, audio and video, and when you get down here, you can do animation and have the dancing folks with flags and all sorts of exciting stuff. But this is all free. You can work at your own pace, and they have them, as you could see, for all of their Office products. Now here is an example of gcflearnfree.org. This is their main, you can see that's their address, and this is their main screen. And if you go through, you can see they have tips, Office tips, to Office 2.16, Office 2.13, Office 2010, hardware, internet and applications, operating systems, some other programs as well, life skills, work, language learning, and beginning graphic design, etc. And a few more here on what is a computer, a typing tutorial if you need some help with your typing skills. It's all free. Just click on there, register, and off you go. Okay, where else can you turn? Well, okay, how about YouTube videos for computer-related videos? And one place is, of course, it'd be APCUG videos from past VTCs. Another one would be product videos, where people, whether it's companies or whether it's customers, have done videos in which they present software that they use, show hardware that they bought, they've unpacked it, they show how you put it together, they offer commentary about how well it works, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. And they also have how-to video training. How can I do this? How can I do that? How do I set up a home network? How do I update files? How do I do whatever you want to do? I used YouTube. Speaking of cars, I used YouTube and a while back when I had a new car when I couldn't figure out how to change the tail light that was burned out. No problem, here it is, step by step by step. So we'll show you some examples on that. And of course, the help function that is built into your software. Most, I would say most software probably has a help function built into it somewhere. Part of the challenge is to find out where, that you can stop what you're doing right now, go to help and say, why is it doing this? Or how do I make it do that? And so on. So these are things you can do while you're using the software. These would be things you might do to help build this base of knowledge that you are looking for to carry you along the way. Here I went to YouTube, www.youtube.com, and I plugged in APCUG, and here you go, 127 videos. And you can go through here and find all sorts. Oh, wait a minute, can't do that. Can go through here and see all of the 127 videos and pick out ones that look of interest to you. Here's another YouTube page. I just plugged in a question, how to set up your email. And you will be getting a lesson, not a lesson, a presentation following me by Huey Poplock on how to search Google effectively. And this is a prime example of why it would be good to stick around for Huey's presentation, because when I did this, I got 5,790,000 results, none of which had to do with Outlook. I wasn't really trying to set anything up, but let's say I wanted to do Outlook. So didn't work. So obviously, just like in Google, I find it hard to believe there are 5,790,000 videos in YouTube on how to set up your email, but that's what this seems to indicate. But in any event, redo your search query to get exactly what you're looking for, so it'll be in the first page and you'll be ready to go. How about how to use Facebook? Just another example, and started out with an ad, and I tend to skip over those and go to the first ones that are not ads. And here's one on how to use Facebook, and it's from Tech Boomers, and that sort of rang a bell with me, so I clicked on this to go to it, and lo and behold, took me to Facebook, to the Tech Boomers website, and it reminded me that there had been a presentation at APCUG a couple of years back by the gentleman who started Tech Boomers. So I'll show that in just a minute. So those are some examples of YouTube videos that you could get to help build your base of knowledge, or help with a how do I do this kind of a problem, or how do I solve this kind of a problem. Actually, here is Tech Boomers. This website has a bunch, was created to offer free videos and free presentations, written presentations to anyone, no charge, by a gentleman up in Canada. And as you can see, he's got how-tos for Amazon and Gmail and Facebook and others, but there's social, entertainment, shopping, learning, everyday stuff, Internet 101, how to blog. Here's a couple more, Google Voice course. Some of these, as I said, are written courses. Some are video courses. It's https techboomers.com. Heartily recommend that. As a matter of fact, I did not know about this until I put this presentation together. So this is an added benefit to me. I intend to check that out at my leisure. So now let me look at a help function. I mentioned that most software has a help function built into it. This, if you're using Windows, if you're using Microsoft Word 2016, you will recognize this as a blank Word document. If you were to have the whole document in front of you, the whole page in front of you, you would not find the word help anywhere on this page. And you say, well, wait a minute, I thought Phil said you got a help function here. Well, you do. You just have to look for it a little bit. Go up here to tell me what you want to do and click on that. And well, actually what you do is you enter help and click on that. This is not live. And when you do that, up comes a help screen that pushes the blank Word screen to the left, and here comes a help drop-down menu. You can enter your search queries. You can go to the different sections on here, but there's your help function in Microsoft Word. Now, let's say you were in your Chrome browser. This is my Chrome browser, and over, once again, if you were to look at the whole page, you would not find help on here anywhere. But if you go to this little index box up here on the right and click on it, you get this drop-down menu. There's help. You go to help, click on that, and if you do, you next see welcome to Google Chrome Help Center with all the help information that you want to look for in Google Chrome. Ask questions. Another place to turn, obviously. Knowledgeable friends, family, coworkers, computer club members, presenters at training programs, volunteers at your library, senior center. We have a kind of a neat program at our library. Teenagers are encouraged to volunteer to come over on Saturday afternoons to serve as gurus or mentors for people who are computer illiterate or are struggling with some computer problems, typically older people. And so it's a really neat program. You have young people doing some good things and helping some older people, and older people getting the benefit of their knowledge of these digital natives, as it were. Of total strangers that you encounter in your travels. You find yourself sitting next to somebody on an airplane going somewhere or waiting in an airport or whatever, and he's doing something interesting with a computer or phone or tablet. If he seems like a pleasant sort, you can ask him about it and ask him to share his knowledge and recommendations with you. Manufacturer customer service is another one, sometimes hard to find and hard to get to. Sometimes maybe there's a language barrier, or the people are working off a script and not necessarily addressing your problem, but certainly this is a place to try. And community forums. And I'll show an example on that, but I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, are familiar with community forums where users are encouraged to post questions or problems and other users offer suggestions and help. Ask questions of the internet and post your questions through your search engine and go through the answers. Do not assume that every answer will be correct. I encourage you to look for corroboration by trying to find a couple of sources that say the same thing so that you're convinced that you're getting good information. This is an example of Microsoft's community forum. This one for Windows with a question on there, an issue about Windows 10 anniversary update for smaller computers. It's just one example, and people chime in with answers and additional comments and questions. Here's a search from Google, keyboard shortcut for snipping tool, Windows 10. I just showed that as an example. I used this very search to make that snip of my Google Chrome slide that I showed you earlier. And what I would point out, I asked in the question section, I asked if you had a browser extension or security software that validated the safety of websites that come up on searches and so on. And you can see I have a positive check here from my WebRoot security software, and I have a green check here from Avast app from the Google Chrome store, the Chrome Web Store, an Avast safe browsing app. So this website got the green light. This happens to be the Windows Club, and I got the answer to my question. Security. Security we haven't talked a lot about here, but it's no secret to anybody who's been in computers for a while that security is a big problem. It deserves a presentation of its own. We can't do justice to it here. I did ask some questions in the first steps to push the user, the person going through the process, to look into security processes and enhancements. Some of the sources listed in this presentation offer security and privacy tips. You can search the internet for security-related websites and advice, and I'll show an example. Keeping safe on the internet is a two-step process. You can put security software on your computer. You can make sure everything's updated. You can do all the technical things, and you should. But a big part of this is also your behavior and learning about what to do and not to do in terms of clicking on links and opening emails and things like that. The website that I was thinking of, because I used this in a presentation to a senior center, had to do, it's the Federal Trade Commission. And the Federal Trade Commission has a number of sections on it about online security, limiting unwanted calls, emails, protecting kids online, and identity theft. And in particular, they have a whole section on identity theft with a toolkit. So if you or someone you know has been victimized by identity theft, I encourage you to go to their website and look up that toolkit, because it's designed specifically to help victims sort through this and pick up the pieces and work things out. federaltradecommission.gov. Problems, plan in advance. What will you do when? Not if, but when. Problems will arise, and what are you going to do about them? Suggest that as you gather information, you gather resources, you organize it so you can easily access it again instead of it's somewhere in this great pile of stuff or these files in your computer. Develop a contact list of trusted human helpers, the people who your go-to folks for computer questions. Set up a group email in your contact list for ease in posting a question, so you can post a question on an email to all of them at the same time. What made me think of that is that we've set up a Google Groups email within our club that any club member can post to, and that post will go to everybody in the club. And they can post a plea for help. I've got this problem, that problem, and it goes out to the whole group, and somebody will say, okay, and they give them a call and set up a meeting and work out the problems. Use your search engine as a key source of helpful information. My problem, my computer just did this. What's wrong with it? And see what you get in the way of answers. Local computer clubs, in some cases perhaps a store like Best Buy, Apple Store, some of the other stores may have a help desk. Take advantage of that. Stop by and say, hey, help me out with my problem. Be sensitive to dates, and I did not mention this before, but I did want to mention it here. As you gather information, searching on the web, as you get information from people you talk to, help information, whatever, realize that it may be obsolete or it may not be correct. So using the old carpenter's mantra, measure twice, cut once, check out things twice before you pull the plug and try and implement the solution. If the solution that you tried did not solve your problem, be willing to try again. You perhaps have misdiagnosed the problem, or you didn't communicate your question correctly to whoever you spoke to. The process then, just going back through it again, a reminder, we've talked about your level of competence, identifying knowledge gaps, developing a plan, identifying supportive resources, and now the baton passes to you to work your plan, evaluate your progress, recognize changing circumstances, adjust as needed, and success. Congratulations, you're now well on your way to becoming an expert. Keep pulling on the string. Each new discovery will lead to another, as I've learned things just doing this presentation, and life will be good.